Jimmy Butler would be the greatest NBA player of all time if this one thing was different. We all have even more respect for Jimmy Buckets after these NBA playoffs, but GOAT is a little strong, right? I mean, better than Michael Jordan, better than Magic Johnson or Larry Bird? Oh yes! After this video, you will agree if Jimmy Butler had this one change happen, it would change his legacy forever. We'll give you the 3 reasons Jimmy is the GOAT if... Hey, it's Casey. Welcome to AM Hoops. Hit subscribe and notification bells. Coming out with 5 videos per week, always at 5 Eastern, unless I finish early. 1 NBA Finals game left to go. Hit me up on Twitter during the game, especially at Casey Kiernan, or check me out on Instagram at AM Hoops. And coming out with a new AM Hoops podcast every single Friday morning. Check that out too. Jimmy Butler was born in 1989, but if he was born in 1957, it would have changed everything. Jimmy Butler could have been the greatest of all time if his prime was in the 1980s. And reason number 1 is his game. We just watched Jimmy Butler drop a 40-point triple-double in an NBA Finals game, taking 0 threes. Jimmy is the first player to score 40 in a Finals game since Shaquille O'Neal in 2002 without a 3. That's not surprising because centers used to dominate the game back in the day, not wings like today. These days, he'll never be a top 3 player in the league without shooting threes. That's something he wouldn't worry about if his prime was in the 80s. To get that 40-point triple-double, Jimmy is obsessed with the mid-range shot and drawing contact in the paint, getting to the line. Jimmy hit 12 of 14 free throws in Game 3. This chart shows what happened to the mid-range shot starting around 2003. Analytics told NBA teams that the mid-range was inefficient. If they just stepped back a few feet, they'd have a 3-pointer instead of a 2. Since 3 is worth more than 2, the amount of mid-range shots plummeted while 3-pointers skyrocketed. Didn't they know that 3 was more than 2 back in the day? Yes, but the 3-point era didn't start until 1980. It was brand new. They had never seen a player like Stephen Curry. In fact, Jimmy Butler is the 3rd player in Finals history with 40 points and 0 threes in the 3-point era. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, and Jimmy Butler. The difference with Jimmy Butler is his assists and his rebounds. The 1980s would have been turned upside down by a guy who could score like that, under 7 feet tall, who could also set up his teammates with rebounding. Jimmy scored or assisted on 73 points in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. That is one behind the most ever, Walt Frazier in the 1970s. Jimmy would have dominated every player alive. His biggest competition back in the day for greatest player would have been Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, or Michael Jordan. Magic had the passing for sure, but he couldn't defend at that level. Of course, Larry Bird's playmaking and outside shooting were elite, but his rebounding was average, so was his inside scoring and athleticism. Michael Jordan had it all. He still has the record for most points in a playoff game with 63 against the Boston Celtics in the 1980s. The problem was championships. MJ isn't considered the best player of the 1980s because he wasn't drafted until 1984 and he didn't win until 1991. Jimmy's 40-point triple-double came in a finals game. If his prime was back in the day, there's no telling how many titles he would have won. And that brings us to reason number 2, and that's his work ethic. Jimmy Butler has a championship mindset that would have set him apart in the 1980s. No one did 3 a.m. workouts back in the day or lifted weights the way Jimmy does. Michael Jordan didn't start strength training until the Pistons beat him in 1990. That was a game changer for MJ, and it was for Jimmy Butler too. Jimmy went from homeless to junior college to D1 to a bench player to starter to franchise player. And he did it all with talent and a freakish work ethic. The stories of Jimmy Butler's workouts are legendary. I mean, he had security called on him in the bubble because someone couldn't sleep with him dribbling in his hotel room at 3 a.m. He became the NBA's most improved player in the 2015 season because he cut himself off and worked. No TV, no internet, just Butler at his house in Houston with friends hooping. Jimmy understands that hard work plus talent is what makes someone great. Just talent only goes so far. He famously challenged his Timberwolves teammates in practice and called out Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. The guys who were taken #1 overall in back-to-back drafts got beat by the 30th overall pick plus the third-string practice team. He dragged that T-Wolves team to their first postseason in 10 years, and they haven't been back since. The bottom line with this point is that people call Jimmy's work ethic old school, but it's actually not old school. It's kind of new school, like Michael Jordan in 1991 or how Kobe Bryant used to approach things. Jimmy Butler, with this work ethic back in the day, would have been a huge advantage and would have led to championships. So reason number 3 that Jimmy Butler is the GOAT if his prime was in the 80s is his attitude. Jimmy's work ethic may be Kobe/Jordan new school, but his attitude is old school. The buddy-buddy NBA is not how Jimmy Butler is trying to live. He's not hugging the dudes who just beat him on the court. We hear old school guys say all the time that a flagrant foul now wouldn't even have been a foul in their day. That's how Jimmy likes to play. We always wonder what throwback NBA stars would be like in the social media era. They would be like Jimmy Buckets. Look at this Instagram post from Jimmy Butler. He literally circles the Pacers game, tags TJ Warren, and says, "Don't be mad you can't guard me. We'll see what you're about in March." What? That is 1980s pettiness. Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas still don't talk because they didn't shake hands 30 years ago. Nowadays, players work out together, rival teammates go out to dinner. You are not catching this dude on a banana boat with his rivals. Oh, and what about the biggest beef old school guys have with the new generation? Load management? Well, this year, Jimmy Butler's coach Eric Spoelstra was quoted saying, "We don't do load management, we're the Miami Heat." That's why the Heat are the perfect team for Jimmy Butler. That's him. He played 44 minutes to get that 40-point triple-double. And by the way, just to be clear, I know we're harping on this 40-point triple-double, but Jimmy didn't just have that game and nothing else. He's been amazing the entire playoffs and finals. He scored more points than Anthony Davis this series, one fewer than LeBron James. He's assisted more than both of them the entire finals. So, number 1, a dominant game that would have wrecked the league. Number 2, an unmatched work ethic unlike anyone else. And number 3, his old school attitude to not get pushed around. Jimmy is the toughness of the bad boy Pistons with the skill and game to compete with some of the greatest players back in the day that would have won a ton of chips. But instead of being the GOAT, he's just one of the greatest of his generation, which is pretty good for a guy who was born in the wrong era. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.